tends to more towards aggro. He's got Noble Hierarchs to provide some explosiveness. He's got Stoneforge Mystic. He's got uh, Knight of the Reliquary. Then he's got Gaddock Teague, Scavenging Ooze, and Kasali Pride Mage as three one-ofs that are tutorable with Green Sun Zenith. So he's kind of got like a toolbox-y kind of aggressive deck, but he does have some tools to fight on the control angle. 4 copies of Force of Will in the sideboard. Daze in the main.
Ben Friedman on his the opponent's side playing blue-white-red Delver, and we see that Delver is the opening play here for Ben Friedman as these players get underway. Reid Duke is our number 4 seed, Ben Friedman the number 7 seed, so Reid Duke gets the option to play. He takes that option, and Ben Friedman opens it up here with Delver of Secrets. Now, Ben Friedman, if you've been watching, he's been using a Superman Clark Kent motif on his Delver.
Yeah, altered. He goes from Clark Kent, turns into Superman based on what's on top of the library. There, kind of like a, it's kind of a throwback to Versus system, I guess. I guess it also references Superman.
There's that too. If you're a Superman, oh wait a second, that looks like it might be
that is Bruce Banner flipping into the Incredible
wow.
Hulk, I believe.
Wow, I actually, if that's Bruce Banner, I prefer Bruce Banner to
Yeah.
Superman.
He's got Marvel and DC mixed in there. I mean, he looks kind of scientist-y, right? He doesn't look like Clark Kent for sure.
Yeah, so I guess we've got two strong and meek opposites. I wonder if there's a Jekyll and Hyde thing in there. I don't know.
I don't know. I'd like to see all 4 of Ben's Delvers.
Reid
so
Duke
we can kind of get the
says,
theme.
"That's a nice little science guy there. Let's kill him."
That's exactly what he says. It sounds like something Reid Duke would say. Kill your science guy. All
That's
right.
a Swords to Plowshares that exiles the Delver of Secrets. It never did find out what that secret was.
Yeah, we have a guess that the Hulk is waiting to smash on the other side of that particular Delver. So
I kind of wish that had been a Superman, because there is that plot line where Superman goes farming. Okay, we have Stoneforge Mystic on turn 2 from Reid Duke, and that does work. There is no Force of Will or Daze from Ben Friedman. So what are we going to find? We could find a Batterskull. We could find a Umezawa's Jite. Those are the 2 main deck equipment that he has in the deck. In the sideboard, there's more. He's got a Sword of Fire and Ice. We'll have to find out if he decides to bring that in this matchup.
well, Superman grew up on a farm, so
That's
you
true.
know, going Swords to Plowshares is something he's pretty familiar with.
Any other comic book nerds out there, please feel free to send your comic references to Joey Pascal. That's at Affinity for Blue.
Well, looks like Umezawa's Jite was the choice off of that Stoneforge Mystic from Reid Duke. He passes back to Ben, who's going to go ahead and resolve a Brainstorm here. I believe this is an end of turn Brainstorm. It wasn't clear. We were focusing on Reid.
This is a main phase Brainstorm. Remember Ben Friedman's turn 1? He went
Oh,
Delver
that's
of
right.
Secrets.
Sorry, it was Delver.
Yep, and so turn 1 is going to get Swords to Plowshares from Reid Duke. He untaps. A Stoneforge Mystic gets an Umezawa's Jite. Ben Friedman untaps and casts a main phase Brainstorm. Ben Friedman here with Delver Blade, the blue-white-red Delver deck that was really got most of the spotlight at the very last Invitational. Is it still going to be king? We'll have to find out.
Yeah, this deck I think was among the most popular at this Invitational. We saw a lot of Delver variants, but this one I think was the most popular Delver variant. And aside from Sneak and Show, I think Delver, and I don't want to speak for the entire field, from what we saw on camera, Blue-White-Red Delver was the most popular Delver variant, and next to Sneak and Show, I think it was the most popular deck that we saw in the Invitational.
And look at that hand. I can see a Stoneforge Mystic, a Geist of St. Traft. I believe I see a Lightning Bolt. I'm not 100% sure on that Lightning Bolt, but I thought I saw one.
Yeah, it looks like there's a red card in there, but he flashes past it pretty quickly, so...
Well, his red guard's main deck are Lightning Bolt and Grim Lavamancer.
Yeah, that could be a Lavamancer. Yeah, he goes by it so quickly it's impossible to tell. So, Reid Duke gets to untap with his Stoneforge Mystic. He's got an Umezawa's Jite in hand. Off of that Mystic, he's going to go ahead and crack a Misty Rainforest. Finds the Lone Savannah.
They're in hand, we know that he has Umezawa's Jite, and oftentimes the Stoneforge Mystic will go and get a Batterskull. But in this matchup, this is a creature matchup, and I think Reid Duke just wants to make sure that he can tear up any of Ben's creatures. So that's why he went and retrieved a Jite.
How would you describe Reed's deck? I said aggro control, but it's more aggro.
I actually think of this as a mid-rangey deck. I mean, it's
Okay.
got some counter magic, but what does it try to do? It tries to greatly develop the table. It only has a very small smattering of actual counter magic. The rest of this deck is a ton of creatures it puts into play. Green Sun Zeniths to get more creatures. Sylvan Library, Umezawa's Jite, Jace, Batterskull. I mean, I think of this as a mid-range control deck in many ways.
Yeah, I can't really disagree with you. That's kind of why I brought it up, because I felt like aggro control was the wrong term.
Yeah, aggro control. It's just Ben Friedman is a deck that's a little bit. It can sometimes play the role of that, but it's not actually an aggro control deck either. But let's pretend he gets the draw, right? Let's say he gets the Delver draw. He can play as though he is an aggro control deck. And Reid Duke's deck has some difficulty pulling that off. It doesn't have Force of Will. It doesn't have Spell Pierce. It has a few days. It just doesn't get to play that game the same way.
So Noble Hierarch, the only play from Reid Duke on his turn. He passes back to Ben. Ben in the tank here. He's got 2 lands in play right now. He's going to play a third. It's a Wasteland. And immediately
Is that going to be a Geist?
taps 3. He does appear to have the Geist of St. Traft. So Geist of St. Traft, does it resolve? It does. Umezawa's Jite comes down, of course, off of the Stoneforge Mystic ability. And Reid Duke facing against a pretty legendary threat. Ben Friedman also facing down against a pretty legendary threat. And Reid Duke, too.
Yeah, and Reid Duke, too. One of the things I really like about this, you saw how quickly Reid Duke put that Umezawa's Jite into play. He's thinking about what his plays might be while his opponent's taking his turn. That's smart. That's how you should be doing it. Saves you a lot of time. Look at that. He puts the Knight of Reliquary into play. It activates the Umezawa's Jite, putting it onto the Stoneforge Mystic. Attacks for 2. It points out the trigger from the Exalted and gets 2 counters. That Knight is a 5/5 currently.
There you see Umezawa's Jite, the one of the rares in the Rat's Nest precon, back when Betrayers of Kamigawa was around. And as soon as that card started picking up and people saw how good it was, those Rat's Nest precons flew off the shelves.
Yeah, I remember at the pre-release for that set, Pro Tour champion Mike Hron and perennial Madison player Matt Severa, they are great limited players, but they hadn't played the card yet. They didn't think it was good, and by the end of the day, everyone that had seen it was just astounded by how good it was. I think one of the reasons people didn't think it was any good, all that text, they imagined there had to be some sort of mana activation, something, but no, it's just that good.
It takes so long to read. I'm just going to assume that there's a line in there that's the downside. So
yeah, it's funny because apparently in development they took the mana cost off of the activations on Umezawa's Jite at the last minute and just like, that's fine, let's put it out there.
yeah, and here it is in Legacy, 8 years later, 9 years later. What was it, 2004, right?
We see Ben Friedman trying to determine if he can do a race here. He could Swords to Plowshares, that Knight of the Reliquary, get that out of the way, and if he did that, he'd be able to attack for 6. But what's coming back at him? Quite a bit.
He's got to worry about those counters on the Jite doing work too, because they can gain life, they can pump his own guys, and they can kill creatures that are targetable.
Now, Reid Duke gains 5 from the Knight of the Reliquary going farming, loses 6 from the Angel plus the Geist of St. Traft. That puts him at, I believe, 17, or maybe he went up to 16. Either way, he's up 1 life from down 1 life from where he was a second ago. There he is, 15 life. And you can see Ben Friedman with Daze, with Stoneforge Mystic of his own. And he's thinking about where his plays are going to go. He goes fetching with the Scalding Tarn. We see Tundra. Here comes the Stoneforge Mystic, I believe, leaving that Wasteland up. Oh, he's going to go the other direction. There we go, leaving the Volcanic Island up. And there's a Stoneforge Mystic. Reid Duke, with only Dazes in his deck for counterspells, says, sure, go ahead.
And as for Ben's side of the board, he's got a Batterskull and an Umezawa's Jite main as well. And a couple of months ago, that would have been an answer for Ben to answer Reid's Jite. for the moment, as the current rules stand, they both just get a GT.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understand the game world logic of this, but we're not playing a role-playing game. We're playing Magic the Gathering.
I guess they both get to use it, but it's just kind of like one at a time. They toss it back.
Timeshare?
Yes, it's a timeshare. So, yeah, I don't know.
Reid Duke untaps.
I'm trying to figure out. Maybe Umezawa just had a couple of GTs. He had a spare. Ben found it, and now he's going to play with it. So
Reid Duke here. 4 lands untapped, a Noble Hierarch, a Stoneforge Mystic, and Umezawa's GT with 2 counters, facing off against a Stoneforge Mystic, a Geist Faint Trapped, and 4 lands of his own. He starts it off with a Ponder, Fishy Ponder. What do we got? I see a Windswept Heath in there, and I can't make out the rest of it.
thought one might be Horizon Canopy. He does have one of those main, but couldn't say for sure.
If it's a Horizon Canopy, I think I see it in play.
It is in play.
Yeah, so it's just shuffle away. Let's see what we get. Spin the wheel. Make a deal. What do we got? Reid Duke giving it a healthy shuffle.
Yeah. If his opponent were Brad Nelson, he'd have to worry about not finding what he needed on the top of his library here.
Brad Nelson, our champion in
Yes.
the Invitational. Let's see what you get, Reid Duke. He's very good at hiding that draw from us.
Yes, he is. I don't think it's intentional, but he's definitely one of the players who keeps his hand close to the vest, keeps it hidden for the most part from the cameras, so we can only speculate as to what he may have drawn there off of that ponder. Here comes Stoneforge Mystic. Remember the Exalted Trigger? It is a 2/3.
And Ben Friedman says, yep, 2/3 hits me, and we get 2 more counters on Umezawa's GT. Ben Friedman now drops to 16. We see 3 mana spent by Reid Duke. Is this going to be another knight? It is indeed. Ben Friedman looks like he's getting ready to untap. Remember, he has an Umezawa's GT of his own in hand.
His Stoneforge Mystic currently summoning sick, but Ben doesn't have the mana to activate it anyway. Looks like Reid's going to go ahead and kill off the Mystic there at the end of his turn using 2 of the counters from the GT. So leaves 2 on the GT remaining. A Brainstorm from Ben, main phase here. Taps that Volcanic Island, leaving up double Tundra and a Wasteland, so no red source here.
Ponder, Wasteland, Bolt, the card's drawn.
Still has that GT, of course, only costs 2 mana to cast it, but it is nice to circumvent any sort of counter spells with a Stoneforge Mystic. As he decides to put back what looks like the GT and another card. Now, it looks like he's got 2 Stoneforge Mystics in hand,
That looks like what it seems to be to me.
which would be a very good explanation as to why he'd put back the card he already tutored up once, because he can just go right back and get it.
And Ben Friedman reviewing the cards that he has up there to put back.
It'll also allow him to shuffle away anything he puts back as well, so he can put back the GT and a card he doesn't want, play the Stoneforge Mystic, get the GT back, and get a nice shuffle effect there off of the tutor.
If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Joey Pasco, and that's exactly what he does. Ben Friedman now starts off with a Ponder. Maybe he'll even shuffle it further away.
He's going to look at his 3rd card down, which he didn't see. He put Daze back alongside that GT, and he finds a Brainstorm as the 3rd card down. He's going to go ahead and shuffle. We're going to get a mystery card on the top, and he it looks like he set things up to follow up with Mystic into a GT, possibly Batterskull. Maybe he's changed his mind.
Yeah,
So
now one of the things he might have to worry about is if he does not draw a land, that Reid Duke potentially could cast Daze on that first Stoneforge Mystic. Reid Duke does have several Dazes in his deck. And Reid Duke passes it back. Ben Friedman draws. Oh, that was a great draw for him, a Flooded Strand.
All right, so Ben has 2 Mystics, a Wasteland and a Flooded Strand in hand alongside a Lightning Bolt. That, I believe, is everything. Flooded Strand, Wasteland, Mystic, Mystic, Bolt. He really would like to find an answer to that Jite because it's just, those counters are going to just put this game so, just going to make it such an uphill battle.
Okay, we have a attack with a token. That's an angel, apparently, that piece of paper. And he's asking, please block. Reid Duke says sure. And that's 4 damage to Reid Duke. And the Geist of St. Traft dies. Now we see the Flooded Strand fetches. He's going to get a mountain of some variety to get that bolt. The Reid Duke would need to have 2 dazes to be able to prevent this. Doesn't have them, so goodbye to the Knight of Reliquary. That says a lot of respect there. And he follows up with a Stoneforge Mystic. Reid Duke says sure. And there on the very, very bottom is Umezawa's Jite. But I wonder if he's going to go for the Batterskull now.
Yeah, it's possible he's changed his mind, and that does look like the case. So Batterskull is the choice here from Ben Friedman off of his second Stoneforge Mystic, even after shuffling away his Umezawa's Jite.
One thing we haven't seen from Reid Duke is he's got 4 green Sun Zeniths in this deck.
Yeah,
it
he
hasn't
hasn't cast
happened
anything.
yet. And cards that he has to affect the Batterskull, Kasali Pride Mage can blow it up, and Gadoktig can stop it from being cast. So if he can kill the Stoneforge Mystic, that would shut down the Batterskull from being able to come into play. In comes the Stoneforge Mystic. And Ben Friedman, it looks like he's not blocking. And that's correct. So 2 damage, 1+1 from the Exalted. And then we're going to see, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4 mana.
Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, Reid Duke with all the haymakers here in this game, being able to put multiple counters on an Umezawa's Jite. He's got a Jace the Mind Sculptor on board. He can kill that Stoneforge Mystic at will, making it forcing Ben to hardcast Batterskull if he wants it into play next turn. Of course, Ben can also just resolve another Stoneforge Mystic, but again, those Jite counters can just stop that. So Batterskull going to be something Ben is going to need to hardcast if he wants it to see play, as Reid actually does go ahead and go after the Stoneforge Mystic and clears Ben's side of the board of non-land permanents.
Reid took a while to think about what he'd want to do with that top card. Looked like he had an actual a question, which way to go. And as you said, the Batterskull in hand can be dropped by Ben Friedman, but against a Jace, it won't take very long before Ben Friedman will just be out of time, out of life, because that Jace can keep unsummoning the Germ.
Exactly. Ben in a tough spot here. Just under 20 minutes into this particular game here in the finals of the StarCityGames.com Legacy Open here in Indianapolis, where we had the Open Series featuring the Invitational this weekend. It's our 3rd Invitational of the year. We've got one more coming up later on this year in December in Vegas. Don't miss out on that one.
Wasteland.
And Stoneforge Mystic number 3 from Ben Friedman resolves. Ben gonna find that Jite.
And he's in real trouble here. Basically, every creature that he drops down, Reid Duke can just shoot down. Umezawa's Jite may not look like a machine gun, but it's sure acting like one.
Yeah, I believe some have referred to it as the first Planeswalker.
It does have 3 abilities.
It doesn't come with the counters on it at first. Once they're on there, it's like you're removing loyalty counters to removing and adding loyalty counters based on how the game goes.
And Ben Friedman trying to overload the board just for one quick second here. Get some things onto the table. Maybe make a Jite of his own stick.
He gets a Delver into play, and he gets a Jite into play. Hard cast.
And he's considering a Wasteland here, but decides to pass it back. He realizes with 5 mana, 4 mana, either way, Reid Duke is pretty similar in how highly he can operate his deck. In comes the Stoneforge Mystic again for 2 damage with the Exalted trigger.
Yeah, Ben's just going to go ahead and take it. And Reid's going to get 2 more counters on that GT. I mean, Reid can just clear Ben's board yet again for the 3rd consecutive turn and still have a counter left on the GT. This is insane. I mean, it's what GT does, but I don't know how Ben gets out of this. He's
Yeah.
gonna activate that Jace Fate Seal ability and put it on the bottom. There you go. Clear your side of the board, says Umezawa's GT.
I don't remember how recently the legend rule changed, but it was very recently, just the last few months. We see Scavenging Ooze added to the board, and we've got Force of Will and Batterskull in hand. Ben Friedman says that's it. Let's go to the next one. So our first game of this finals is in the bag. That's our first win in our finals. And as every tournament that we do for SCG Live, as every top 8, there's one more winner. The more winners that we give, the better, and that winner is going to be a winner of 1 free year of Star City Games Premium from our premium giveaway. And it's pretty easy how this works. I think that, did you say you had a trivia question? Because if you don't, I do.
I think you said you were going to come up with something.
Okay, I've got a trivia question. Tell them how the trivia works.
I'll tell you guys how the trivia works if you're unfamiliar. We're going to give away a year of Star City Games Premium. To participate in this contest, all you need to do is tweet from Twitter, because where else are you going to tweet from?
Right.
Using Twitter, you can use the hashtag SCG Premium, which is hanging out down there on the bottom. Tweet the answer with that hashtag, and you, if you have a correct answer, are in the running to win the premium. We'll pick one random correct answer to win 1 year of premium. And we're going to do this, or we do this during all our top 8s, 3 months during the quarterfinals, 6 months during the semifinals, and a full year during the finals. So here's your chance to win 1 year of premium. What's the question you got for us, Adrian?
Absolutely. Our newly crowned invitational champion, Brad Nelson, played Sneak and Show in Legacy. What deck, what archetype did he play in Standard?
I like it.
What archetype did our new champion, Brad Nelson, play in Standard? I'll give you a hint. It's new. Okay. And if you're the winner, that'll happen if you hashtag SCG Premium on your tweet. Get the right answer. It's not speed that counts, it's accuracy.
That's right.
So take your time, think it through. Go to the text coverage, see what it says over there. I don't know if you've been watching all weekend, you should know. And if you haven't been watching all weekend, do some research.
That's right.
Now let's go and see. Oh wait. I've got a little gift for you.
You have a gift for me?
Well,
as if I wasn't aware that was our. Was over there trying to surprise me? Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah. Okay, it's not my gift. Every single one of the players that played in all of the events, the major events this weekend, was given one mythic in this envelope. They each got a mythic for entering in all of those events, a stack of 7 of every mythic. And they were put into these envelopes by house elves. Here's the door prize that you get for the tournament. What do you hope to open?
I would like another Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Did you do that?
Did I do what?
Did you open a Jace the Mind Sculptor?
No.
Oh, that was Gerard Fabiano.
In a World Week pack, like when I bought 90-some packs.
Okay.
I did open a Jace.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, we'll see if I can
now the
have
pack,
some luck here.
Or say this envelope that he's opening, at our events for the Invitational, we gave away all of these for our door prizes. Every entrant gets one of these for every one of the major events that they enter. What do you get this time?
It's a Planeswalker.
Are you sure?
I'm sure, but it is not Jace the Mind Sculptor.
That is a solid card. Wow.
Sorin, Lord of Innistrad.
Oh, I want that.
It's a 4-mana Planeswalker.
I'll trade you the one I opened.
What did you opened? Skitherix.
Dang it! You remember.
I mean, I was standing right back there. I'm like, what's Adrian going to open? What's he got? I was curious. I needed to find it. So I have a Sorin. Very
okay.
Nice.
So we're both winners, and Reid Duke is the winner of the first round of our finals.
That's right.
They're going to their sideboard. They've been sideboarding. You can see the deck lists on the lower left corner. During our top 8, all of our competitors get access to the deck lists of their opponent. So there are no secrets. You get to have full information. Now let's go through these deck sideboards. 4 Force of Will for Reid Duke, 2 Relic of Progenitus, 2 Meddling Mage, 2 Sword of Fire and Ice, 1 Life from the Loam, 1 Humility, 1 Envelop, 1 Blue Elemental Blast, 1 Counterspell, 1 Vendilion Click. Cards that I like for this matchup. I like Vendilion Click as a way to fight against the Stoneforge Mystic. I believe that Sword of Fire and Ice actually has some real value against the this deck that has blue and red spells that matter. It can help with blocking, it can help with attacking and getting through. The damage from the Sword of Fire and Ice to a creature can be a big deal. I like Life from the Loam for the kind of grinding ability of it. And I think I like Blue Elemental Blast as well, just because. Actually, no, there's only Bolt, there's only Grim Lavamancer, but man, do you want to get rid of that Grim Lavamancer. That's such a good spell. Probably not good enough, though. That'd probably be where I would start.
Speaking of Grim Lavamancer, there are 2 in the main deck for Ben, but he's got 2 more in the sideboard, and I believe he brings those in because it is such a good card, as you had mentioned. So he can go up to a full 4 Grim Lavamancers. He's got an additional Swords to Plowshares. I imagine he brings that in. He's got a Sword of Feast and Famine. The protection from green can be extremely relevant here, where Reid has so many green creatures. And he's also got a copy of Wear and Tear, which will be very good against the equipment. Now, he also has a couple copies of Rest in Peace here. I don't know if he wants it that badly for a Knight of the Reliquary,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it is an option.
It's just Knight of the Reliquary, and it helps a little bit against Scavenging Ooze if you get it down before the Ooze gets to work. And Ben Friedman goes land, Reid Duke goes land, Noble Hierarch. Noble Hierarch is a card that has not seen very much play in a while, partly because Deathrite Shaman has been rearing its ugly head, and Lightning Bolt, though, Ben Friedman following the classic Dan Paskins rules, kill all the elves.
Kill the elves, bolt the birds. Yeah, you just want to keep your opponent from being so explosive in the first couple of turns.
Yeah, the English did not invent Kill the Elves, but they did have Kill the Elves sub-tournaments at English Nationals many years ago where people would compare how many elves they killed that tournament.
That's something I hadn't heard about.
Stoneforge Mystic from Ben Friedman on turn 2. And Reid Duke without any islands. He does put a pause on for half a second before saying go ahead. Remember, these players have access to each other's deck lists, and Ben Friedman has seen what Reid Duke's sideboard includes, which includes 4 Force of Will. Reid Duke just kind of saying, give me a second. Okay, that's fine. Giving a little hint that, well, not a hint, giving a little tell, whether it's a true tell or a false tell, that there might be Force of Wills in his deck now.
Umezawa's Jite, again, the first target of that Stoneforge Mystic. Ben went for that first last game. He goes for it first here in Game 2. Down a game to Reid Duke here in the finals of the StarCityGames.com Legacy Open.
And we see a Umezawa's Jite pushed into play by Reid Duke without a creature to carry it. Ben Friedman says sure. And untap Wear Tear in his hand. And we see Delver, we see a Scalding Tarn, we see Swords to Plowshares, we see Wear Tear, Umezawa's Jite, and Ben Friedman fetches a land. And there's a Tundra. He uses that white mana for something. Perhaps it might be a blue mana. It could be a blue for, say, a Ponder or a Brainstorm. Delver, there's the Delver we saw earlier.
So Delver of Secret's going to join the force on Ben's side of the board, and Ben says go with 2 mana up to activate that Stoneforge Mystic and put that Jite into play, counterspell or not, in Reid's hand.
Yeah, now Ben Friedman has to hope that Reid Duke doesn't have the Singleton Vendilion Click in his hand.
Windswept Heath, says Reid Duke, and go. Ben says end of your turn. I'm going to put the Umezawa's Jite into play off of the Stoneforge Mystic, and now Ben appears to be in reasonable shape. Now, of course, Reid can just react to the equip, or he can wait until there's an attack, make sure that Jite doesn't get any counters on it. If he has a removal spell, we may see it here. So Delver of Secrets does not flip. Ben trying to determine how exactly to set up his cards when he's got the flip card, he's got the Delver itself, and then he's got the equipment. So Delver picks up Umezawa's Jite, and Ben attacks with both Stoneforge Mystic and Delver. Reid Duke's going to go ahead and crack his Windswept Heath here.
Reid Duke here. Very few answers to this situation immediately. He can cast Swords to Plowshares.
Does he get a Dryad Arbor? He goes with a Dryad Arbor. I like this. He's going to be able to put that in front of the Delver and trade with it. It does give Ben some counters on his Jite, and that may be enough for Ben. I believe it was. If Ben can back things up with a bit of pressure here, and he can keep Reid's creatures off the table like Reid did to him in game one, Ben may be able to take this game on the back of those Jite counters.
Yeah, one of the things that Reid Duke is going to need to do here is either have a lot of Swords to Plowshares, or alternately get a Green Sun Zenith for a Kasali Pride Mage and then activate it. That'll take him 4 mana to do that, so that's not easy. We have the equip then after combat to the Stoneforge Mystic. So now on Reid Duke's side of the table, a unequipped Jite, a Tropical Island, and a Savannah. And on Ben Friedman's side of the table, he's got 4 dual lands and he used to have
Swords to Plowshares comes down from Reid Duke to take out that Stoneforge Mystic there at the end of Ben's turn. So Ben has 0 creatures on board, just a Jite with 2 counters. But he does have 4 lands. Reid traded his 3rd land for Ben's Delver by tutoring up a Dryad Arbor off of a Windswept Heath.
Says go.
Plays a Windswept Heath number 2 and passes back.
One of the things about Ben Friedman's list, if you're familiar with it, there are not very many creatures in the deck. Oh, there's a Geist of St. Trapp. That's a good creature. And that's going to be very hard to interact with for Reid Duke, particularly with an Umezawa's Jite in the mix.
He'd like to be able to interact with it here while it's on the stack, but it appears he has no answer. Geist resolves, picks up the Jite. Ben says, is that cool? Picks up the Jite, and then he says, go. Interesting.
And a fetch land. I think we're going to see a Life from the Loam. Or it could be a Knight of the Reliquary. That Knight of the Reliquary would be a 6/6. 6/6 is pretty big, and in fact, it's big enough to be able to fight against a Geist of St. Traft with an Umezawa's Jite and 2 counters, if there is a Knight of the Reliquary.
Now, Ben, I believe, had a Swords to Plowshares at some point.
Well, he did use a Swords to Plowshares early on the Noble Hierarch, or pardon me, that was a Lightning Bolt.
That was a bolt, yeah. So I think he may still have a Swords to Plowshares, unless I'm mistaken. But Reid finds his 4th land. He's going to go ahead, cast a Green Sun Zenith.
That's for 2. Remember, he's got a Kasali Pride Mage in his deck list. Are we going to see the Pride Mage? He's looking. Yeah.
And
there
Pride Mage is the target. Pride Mage is there. Ben says, yeah, I mean, I didn't counter your Zenith. That entirely resolved. You can't respond to the creature choice. It's just in the battlefield, or it comes into play there.
Ben's choices here. He could try to knock that Kasali Pride Mage out of the way first to get through extra 2 points of damage, because Reid Duke almost certainly is going to block and then after damage sacrifice to kill the Jite, so that he would only take 4 damage. The cost of doing that, of killing the Kasali Pride Mage first, is that he wouldn't be able to gain 4 life. Sounds like a reasonable thing to do to me, and that's just not counting if whether or not, here we go, is that going to be a bolt? Oh, Gitaxian Probe, there we go.
So Ben paying for a Gitaxian Probe. His hand, Reid's hand, shows Swords to Plowshares, Knight of the Reliquary, and Noble Hierarch.
Reid's Duke is particularly equipped, actually, to fight against a Umezawa's Jite. 4 Green Sun Zenith makes it much easier for him than for most decks to be able to actually deal with that card. For these days, Manriki Gusari is one of the only cards you actually can use, since you can't use the Legend rule anymore. Brainstorm.
Ben finds Ponder, he finds Spell Pierce, and he finds Misty Rainforest on the top of his library. He's got to put 2 back to finish resolving this Brainstorm. Looks like he's made a quick decision. He does still have a Swords to Plowshares in hand. He can hold that for the Knight of the Reliquary that is likely forthcoming from Reid.
Okay, taps another mana.
Looks like he's going to go for a Ponder here. Or at least he's thinking about it. He's got a Ponder in the front of his hand.
And he clears the way. Get out of the way. Okay, Jite down. In for 6. Reid Duke falls to 10.
And here comes that Ponder post-combat. with Reid tapped out. Now, again, there is a Jite on Reid's side of the board, but he has yet to be able to equip it to a creature because Ben's been able to keep Reid's side of the board clear. But it's been a little easier for Ben with counters on a Jite, but now Ben's lost his Jite Kasali Pride Mage, taking care of that earlier this turn, and Ben no longer having access to that Umezawa's Jite may give Reid the window that he needs. Now we know Ben has his Swords to Plowshares in hand for the next creature that attempts to fight with the Jite.
Looks like there's a Swords to Plowshares on the top of that library as
I
well.
agree. Yeah, he has one in hand, and it looks like one on top, or one within the top three.
I think that the pile was made Swords to Plowshares, followed by Fetch Land, followed by Ponder. I'm not 100% sure of that, though.
I think that's a Spell Pierce.
Oh, Spell Pierce Ponder? Okay.
Well, I don't know what the middle card is.
Okay.
I think the top card is Swords to
There's
Plowshares.
now double swords, wear, tear, and a land.
So Ben with plenty of defense against creatures, and he's got a clock, and it's a good, solid clock there with that Geist of St. Trapped. So Reid is going to go ahead and cast a Knight of the Reliquary and a Noble Hierarch. Ben immediately going to dispatch the Knight of the Reliquary with the Swords to Plowshares there at the end of Reid's turn.
Yep, gain 6 life, Reid Duke. And Ben Friedman untaps his hand. There it is. That's a Misty Rainforest. His hand is Misty Rainforest, Swords to Plowshares, wear, tear.
So Geist of St. Traft going to go ahead and get in alongside that Angel. Going to knock Reid back to 10. And Ben passes the turn after playing a Misty Rainforest.
Spell Pierce on top of Ben Friedman's library. Pretty likely to get shuffled away. And we see here that Reid Duke is thinking about equipping to that Noble Hierarch. If he does so, the question he has to ask himself is, will his Noble Hierarch survive attacking? Will the Umezawa's Jite stick around? It's 2 mana to invest. He does it. In for 1 after the Exalted. And we see a wear of the wear tear used to break the Umezawa's Jite. That works, so Ben Friedman takes 1. The follow-up here is a land, and Reid Duke says go.
All right, Ben looking in pretty good shape here with a Geist of St. Traft on the board. Reid Duke at 10. And it looked like Reid said, yeah, come on, just kill me.
Yeah, finish me. I'm here, kill me.
I hear some laughter behind us. I'm not sure if it's likely due to the banter between the players.
Oh, certainly. Reid Duke at 10 life, Ben Friedman at 17. Only 2 swings to kill Reid Duke.
All right, Ben untaps. What's he going to get for the turn? Looks like
That's
a lightning bolt.
Ouch.
And it's just short. If Reid will crack that Windswept Heath for us, Ben can go ahead and bolt Reid, and Reid can have his wish granted. Of course, Reid not going to crack the fetch there.
And Reid spends 5
for a Batterskull.
That's not bad.
Not bad at all.
Now remember, with the way that that damage works now, lifelink happens kind of simultaneously. But look at that, the Swords to Plowshares. He can get that out of the way,
yeah.
but it gains Reid 4 life either way.
So we'll put him at 8. He'll attack for 6, and he can bolt him.
That is a path.
No, it's a Swords to Plowshares. They don't play Path in Modern very often.
Now remember,
in Legacy.
Remember, though, Reid Duke has a Swords to Plowshares of his own if he goes for it in that way. Okay, Reid Duke immediately puts that in front. We see Reid Duke put the Swords to Plowshares on the germ. Sorry, Ben Friedman put the Swords to Plowshares on Reid's germ. That's going to bring Reid back up to 8 life. Oh.
Bolt you. So it looked like that Swords to Plowshares hadn't finished resolving.
Yeah,
and
it didn't matter. You know, either way, if the way that the damage works, right? Actually, no. The Swords to Plowshares brings Reid up to 8.
Mm-hmm.
And right there, if Reid waits for the Swords to Plowshares to resolve, he actually survives that turn. And then he'd be able to equip the Batterskull to his Noble Hierarch.
No, I think what happened, he was at 4.
Yeah.
He gains 4 off the Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah, go.
Takes, so Reid was,
He gains 4 off the Swords to Plowshares. And
right. So
there.
it must have been before he gained the life then.
Yeah, he did it before. He did it in response to the Swords to Plowshares.
Right. So then he went to 3.
Yeah.
And went to
If it had been the other
okay.
way, he actually, I think, would have taken that game over. It does not happen very often. I could have that wrong. It's very possible. If you feel free, let us know on Twitter if you think that I've got that wrong. But I think that was a small error there.
Well, what I was surprised was to see Ben not use the Swords to Plowshares on the Germ ahead of time to kind of get in that extra 2 damage from the Geist. Like he allowed the Germ to block the Geist.
Okay, here we go. We've got the targeting here. All fairness, and that's a very nice Twitter handle from I believe that's Timothy Ayton.
Yes, it is.
All fairness says presumably he is Swords to Plowsharing his own Geist of St. Traft. If that's the case, then there's nothing that Reid could have done, and Ben Friedman was very smart to have Swords to Plowshares his own Geist of St. Traft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that actually is probably what that play was. I was under the understanding that Ben Friedman was going after the Germ, but thank you, Tim Ayton, for letting us know that was exactly probably what happened.
Yeah, he was
Swordsing
preventing
his own Geist.
So in
There
order
we
to
go.
prevent the life link.
There
Right,
we go.
so Reid was gaining
Yeah.
no life off of the life link.
That's
no
an
life
excellent
off the
play
Swords to
by Ben.
Plowshares.
That's
Yeah.
an excellent play by Ben Friedman.
And that was where Reid went to 3 based on, he cracked the fetch land.
Yeah, so Reid never ended up at 8 life.
Exactly.
There
okay.
we go.
Makes a lot more sense. It was odd because of the indication he points.
Yeah,
in the
when he
direction
pointed
of
it
the
out
Geist,
there.
but the Geist is right next to the Germ,
Yeah,
so it looks
exactly.
like he's,
The physical gesture made it impossible. Not impossible. Made it difficult to tell which one was which.
Right.
So good job by Ben Friedman there with that excellent play.
So Ben takes game 2 here, evens things up in the finals of the StarCityGames.com Open Series, featuring the Invitational this weekend. This is the Legacy Open.
Yeah. Now the thing that I was talking about, because Reid Duke had a Swords to Plowshares in his hand, some people are saying, well, yeah, but then Reid goes back, takes 4, and then takes 3 from the Bolt and dies. What I was saying was that if Ben had swords to the Germ, which is not what happened,
Right.
Reid would have gone to 8, and then he could crack the land and swords the Angel
Before it dealt
before
4.
that deals the damage, and thus be able to
Exactly.
continue onwards. But that is not what happened. Ben Friedman swords his own Geist of St. Traft so that Reid could not gain the life.
Exactly.
So that window was never available to Reid that I thought it was.
Right. Yeah, there was no Reid going up to 4, going up to 8 life.
But no,
happening there.
definitely thank you to Tim Ayton, though, for pointing out the
Absolutely.
that play there. When those cards were blocking each other, the indication, it was hard to see which one it was going to.
All right, so we're all evened up here in the finals of the Legacy Open, and if you're wondering why we're speaking a little more quietly, it's because the room has cleared out, and those guys, while they are, well, quite a ways away from us, this is an empty room, and if we talk too loud, they can hear us.
It's funny because actually, I feel like I would struggle to throw a football as far away as they are. Or I might be able to throw a baseball that far, but I don't think I can throw a football that far.
Yeah, it's about the outer edge of where I'd be able to throw something.
If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Joey Pasco. This is the StarCityGames.com Open Series, and we had the Invitational earlier. That finished, wrapped up. Brad Nelson took it down. We had the Standard Open. That wrapped up this morning. Harry Corvesi took that one down. Now, which one of these 2 players, Reid Duke, Ben Friedman, which one of them will win and be our final champion of the weekend?
Yeah, it all comes down to this final game here, the final game of the weekend. We're about 45 minutes into this round. Normally the players would only have a few minutes left to finish a game, but these are untimed rounds, so they're able to take their time and think out their decisions a little more. There's a little handshake between the guys. And they're going to take a look at their opening 7 here. I can see a Swords to Plowshares already in Ben's opener. He's got a Wasteland in there. I believe I saw a Spell Pierce. I think he's got a couple Swords to Plowshares if I saw that correctly, but I could be wrong. But looks like both guys are good on their 7. Reid leads with a Noble Hierarch off of a Forest and passes to Ben.
And that is another Ice Age land. Reid Duke has an Ice Age island and an Ice Age forest in his deck. I bet he's got an Ice Age plains too.
It's an Ice Age theme deck.
It's
Yeah.
a fake snow-covered land, I like to say, because you can see all the snow in it, but it isn't actually the title snow-covered forest.
Right. I
It's
guess it's not
just
entirely covered.
yeah. I actually the land I play for my mountains are the fake snow-covered mountains. They actually say mountain, but they look like snow-covered mountains.
So Scalding Tarn from Ben, and
Okay.
yeah, he's in the tank here. Has not passed back to Reid.
If you're going to be Joey Pasco and Adrian Sullivan here, and we've got Noble Hierarch and a Forest on one side and a Scalding Tarn on the other. And we got a Wasteland, 2 mana. What's he going to do with that 2 mana? Okay, we can't see what on the screen what's being done there. Spell Pierce is being cast on something. There we go.
It's Green Sun
Green
Zenith.
Sun
Okay.
Zenith.
All right, Green Sun Zenith gets spell pierced.
And so Reid Duke then wastelands that Tundra afterwards. And you can see now the board is a Noble Hierarch and a Forest versus nothing. Now Ben Friedman, he's going to need to get a couple of... He's got a Wasteland that won't be able to take care of that land. He's got a Flooded Strand.
I think that's all he's got in terms of lands. He's going to go immediately playing the Flooded Strand, immediately crack it.
Yeah, kill
and,
the elf.
Kill the elf with a Swords of
Yeah, now
Plowshares.
Noble Hierarch, not officially an elf.
No, but it does the same
But,
thing.
you know, it feels elfy.
Yeah. It's an elvish hierarch.
If
Elfish, not a
Elf-ish.
Elfish. I guess I can't put the V there. It's
Yeah.
Elfish.
Yeah. What is it, a human advisor or a human scout or a human whatever?
Yeah, I'll go
it's a
with
human
whatever.
shaman, I believe.
Yeah.
But Reid Duke
Sounds about right.
with Bant. It's not no Bant. We could call it yes Bant. Here we go. Green Sun Zenith for 1. And that works.
That
Ben
one will
Friedman
resolve.
not casting a daze on that.
Noble Hierarch is a human druid. And
Ah,
that is
Druid.
the target there for the Green Sun Zenith. So Reid replaces his first hierarch with another.
Green Sun Zenith, a card so good it was banned in Modern. And Ben Friedman here, he's going to have to figure out what his next line of play is. Does he want to kill this one? I mean, every successive turn, the value of those mana accelerators gets less valuable. But it doesn't change the fact that they still have some real value. All it would take if Jace is in the hand, for example, is a single blue source, and Reid Duke could do it next turn. Ponder, the 3-moon variety from Ben Friedman.
Yeah, the thing with this is, even though these guys are on about turn 4, I think, maybe just past turn 3, we've had some wasteland action, so it's kind of pretty early. This is exactly where Noble Hierarch is going to have value, even if it's not still turn 1 or 2. And the Ponder finds Ben. Let's see, well, there was definitely a Geist of St. Traft in there. I thought he was going to show us again. He's deciding how he wants to put them back and whether or not he actually wants to keep them on top. He's looking, presumably, for more lands. We know he has a Wasteland. He's got a Misty Rainforest, a Geist of St. Traft, and I believe a Volcanic Island on the top off of that Ponder. So if he wants lands, it looks like he's got them. It looks like he may have 2 Wastelands, in fact, in hand. So he's got lands, he just doesn't have colored mana sources. He can go to town on one of Reid's lands with a Wasteland, but Noble Hierarch and Forest are still going to provide enough mana for Reid to cast some spells. He's got all his colors just off of the hierarch alone. So Ben really doing some thinking here on this ponder. Looks like he's going to put back land and its volcanic island. Plays Wasteland and does destroy that savannah there. He's got Geist of St. Traft coming up next, I believe, and a Misty Rainforest under that. So
Wasteland
now
from Reid Duke.
Reid says waste your tundra
and a life from the
loam.
loam. Oh my
Wow.
goodness. Ben Friedman, if you recall, has 0 basic lands in his deck, and now Reid Duke has life from the loam Wasteland.
And this might be exactly how Reid ends up going about winning this game. He has the life from the loam. He's able to get back Wasteland and repeatedly use it on Ben's land drop every turn while clocking for 1. So if he wanted to just go ahead and try the 20-turn clock here, he could lean on that for quite a while before Ben would be able to really get into the game.
Back to Reid Duke. Oh gosh.
Of course, Reid probably doesn't want the 20-turn clock as his.
Well, I mean, I don't really think he
Land.
minds if his opponent doesn't lay a land.
Well, sure.
Does it matter?
He decides not to play the Wasteland. He plays the Savannah. Ben is going to go ahead and play Misty Rainforest and pass back.
He's going to be using these fetch lands as a way to dodge Wastelands in order to build up mana for 1 turn before Reid starts the destruction of all of his lands.
Reid plays that Wasteland. Now, right now, I believe Reid only has access to 1 Wasteland, or is it 2?
He's been pretty good at hiding his hand.
Yes, he has. If he's got 2, it's really going to be an uphill battle for Ben. All right, but here on Ben's turn.
There it is, yeah. Green Sun Zenith for 3, and it works. Knight of the Reliquary. Ouch. Knight is a mere 2/2 currently, but that can change rapidly.
Absolutely. A little anti-synergy between Knight and Life from the Loam, but I think Reid's okay with that in this situation.
Ponder from Ben Friedman.
Off of a volcanic island, which is, of course, wasteable.
We see Grim Lavamancer, Wear Tear, land. He's going to shuffle all that away, find something better. He needs to get some action going, or else Reid Duke is going to run away with this game on the back of Knight of the Reliquary, Life from the Loam. Wow, this is a rough game for Ben Friedman.
Ben Friedman, who has yet to lose in Legacy this weekend. He has played.
Oh, wow.
He has won every match.
A lightning bolt from Ben Friedman is going to be able to kill that Knight of the Reliquary. And unfortunately, though, the downside of this is that Reid Duke then, with Ben Friedman's lands exposed, Reid Duke can Wasteland, cast Life from the Loam, and Wasteland.
And that might be exactly what we see here as the lightning bolt takes out the Knight.
If there is another Wasteland already in Reid Duke's hand, that's even worse for Ben.
Wasteland.
Oh, that's even worse.
So Ben down to 0 permanence, going to take a hit from that noble hierarch. And, well, the thing about Life from the Loam, Reid still needs to dredge it back in order to reuse the Wasteland. So that'll be coming likely next turn.
Well, only if Ben lays a land. Ben lays a Wasteland.
True. So Wasteland from Ben. And
Dredge.
Reid does go ahead and dredge the Life from the Loam back into his hand, dumping 2 Windswept Heath, 1 Stoneforge Mystic. Wow, if that Knight of the Reliquary were sticking around, it could be pretty big right here. Wouldn't die to bolt this time. And Reid is going to go ahead and cast the Life from the Loam. Gets back Windswept Heath and presumably the 2 Wastelands. Yes, that's the case. He's going to probably just go ahead and attempt to Wasteland, and of course Ben's going to go ahead and use his Wasteland, even though it is pretty futile considering Reid's Life from the Loam.
Yeah, and Ben Friedman there gains card advantage in that moment, but Reid doesn't care. He's no resources, Ben.
I mean, Reid's drawn 3 from his graveyard twice.
Yeah, exactly. There's a fetch with the Windswept Heath.
Ben down to 0 permanents. Now we know he has a volcanic island in hand, so he's holding that back for the moment until he really has something he wants to cast.
And a Kasali Pride Mage. We have an attack, double Exalted triggers. That's an attack for 2 now. And Reid Duke has a total of 3 mana. We can see that Plains. We can see the Forest, Noble Hierarch, and a Kasali Pride Mage. And Ben Friedman, Land Brainstorm. To me, that says a last huzzah, really.
Yeah, he's just trying to put up some sort of effort here to get out of this, and it's really not anything that comes to mind that's going to be, going to straight up just get him out of this.
And Reid Duke draws a card. He's got a Wasteland in hand. In comes the Kasali Pride Mage for 2/3/4. Wasteland on Ben Friedman's land. Pass the turn. Ben Friedman draw.
Geist of St. Traft is the draw. He has 0 land. Oh no, he has a Scalding Tarn.
There's a Scalding Tarn in hand.
But Ben basically down to 1 shot with every land, and usually has no more than 1 land available. So
there's a 3rd Wasteland naturally drawn by Reid Duke. In for 4 once again with the Kasali Pride Mage.
So Ben could go ahead and Swords to Plowshares this if that's what he wants to do.
Every play that he does to try to answer this is just putting the real land onto the table for it to be destroyed. And Reid Duke really doesn't care. Down to 4.
Yeah, he goes down to 4. But I mean, there's really nothing Ben can do here.
Stoneforge Mystic. And the Stoneforge Mystic works. Ben Friedman says, yeah, go find something. Reid Duke will find something. I don't know that it actually really matters right now.
I think Ben's like, well, I could get an island in days.
Yeah. And he gets a Batter Skull.
Doesn't really put him in much better spot there, but.
And Ben Friedman, he's like, come on, one time. the card that doesn't exist. And he draws a Batter Skull, offers up his hand, and that is all she wrote. Reid Duke, a big smile. Even Ben Friedman is smiling.